Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I have the fifth and final episode of my FLUVAL SPEC 10 litre or 2 gallon tank review. Today I'm going to be doing a pros and cons list of the tank. I've had the tank for a while now. I've done water changes, I've had to go cleaning the filter. Of course the beta's been in here the whole time. He did have a shrimp companion, but the betta decided that he was pretty delicious looking, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. But joining the betta in the tank now is a bristlenose. Now he is sort of running around feeding a little bit there, so he might pop out in the video hopefully. But yeah, he's in there just to help clean up the tank a little bit. He has survived a little bit of an encounter with the betta, and the betta learnt his lesson when he got a couple of little spikes in the mouth, I think. And now they're getting along really fine, and betta completely ignores him, so everything is going well. So in a moment I'm just going to show you some of the footage that I've recorded of the tank with the light on, and the tank with the sort of moonlight light on as well. And if I can scrummage around and find it, I do have a little bit of a video of the bristlenose as well, but as you can see there, he has popped out to say hello, which is perfect timing. Now you might say, oh, bristlenose is going to grow too big for the tank, and yeah, that's completely true. I have got a very small juvenile size one there, but as soon as he gets a bit larger, I've got a little bit of a deal with my local fish store I bought him from, that once he gets a little bit larger and I consider him a bit too large for the tank, I can take him back to the store and swap him for another juvenile. So basically I'll just have a bit of a cycle of young bristlenose coming in, and they can learn their trade, and I'll take them back in and swap them for another one. So that way, yeah, it's not going to be too big for the tank, put too much of a load on the tank, although I think the tank can handle it. Now, first of all, also, before I go any further, if this video is probably going to be a little bit long for you, which it might be, I'm just going to straight away get to the point. Is this tank good? Is it worth buying? And the answer is yes. The short and quick answer is yes. I really love this tank. I think it's worth buying. And yeah, there you have it. So if you want to hang around while I go through all the pros and cons and show you a little bit of video footage, a couple of the problems that I have some solutions for, or you want to come back to it later, that's fine, but there is the answer for you. Okay, so next up, I'm just going to show you a little bit of footage of the fish in action. Okay, so yeah, that was a little bit of footage with the light, sort of, I guess, on and off technically, but on and on, and some of the characters living in the tank right now. Yeah, been very happy with the decor that I've bought. The moss has gone absolutely crazy. I'm about to go and purchase another little stainless steel screen to cut some off and propagate it and create another little small carpet of I think it was the Christmas moss that I bought. The Anubias is going really good. It's been growing strong. You can probably tell from one of the earlier videos it's quite a bit larger. I've had a little bit of algae build-up, which is pretty normal on the plant and on the glass, etc. So the tank is definitely sort of cycling along, and the cycle is happening. Unfortunately, I no longer have the shrimp, which I really loved, but that's alright. My fighting fish does have a little companion now, which is really good, and I like having something in there that's it's quite funny there to see the betta actually getting out of the way of the baby bristlenose now, which wasn't quite the case when I first put him in. Sorry, it's a bit of a joke there to myself. Yeah, so what have I learnt about this tank since buying it and setting it up and running it? Well, as I said before, I really like it. I love it. There's a couple little features that are going to pop up in pros and cons. I know that might sound strange, but when I explain them, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There's not many cons though. It is majoritarily pros. And yeah, so let's get straight into it. Now, first of all, to a couple of the items I saw on the internet when I was looking at the tank myself before I purchased it, people were, as I mentioned in one of the previous videos, covering up the bottom inlet hole. Now, I think that's probably not the best idea. An idea I came up with was to get some of that stainless steel mesh and, yeah, probably place it on the back side of that bottom inlet. I think that would stop any small fry or, I think, shrimp. I guess you call shrimp fry. I'm not too sure about what you call baby shrimp. Getting sucked into that inlet, which is a very real danger. But I think if you could set up some kind of mesh there, that would completely stop anything like that happening. And also, you know, you wouldn't be clogging up the flow. And that bottom inlet is really there as a safety measure, so that when you're dropping the water down, or the water drops down naturally with evaporation, that you've still got a nice amount of water coming in to flow through the pump. Now, the other part that people were saying was that in the rear compartment, where the pump and inlet pipe comes into the main tank, they were finding that was getting a little bit stagnant. As I mentioned previously, I did drill a small hole below the elbow of the outlet pipe just to give a little bit of flow to that upper area, and it's actually worked really well. I believe it might have been a 1mm drill bit that I used. If anyone's really interested in knowing, I can suss that out and make a little video on that. But here's a little bit of footage of when I did a water change, how much flow I created coming out of that small hole. Yeah, so that's created just enough flow to stop anything sort of being stagnant up there. One thing is there's a couple of little holes at the rear, which I will endeavour to show you now. That's an area where bugs, especially with the powerful light, we get a few little small bugs come in through here. I mean, this is Australia after all. And they're attracted to the very powerful light. And they do tend to fall into the water a little bit. One side, of course, is the pump, and one is the filter. So that does help just, I think, yeah, definitely give that a little bit of a sort out with the flow. And yeah, I haven't had any problems with any water sort of stagnation at the rear there. So yeah, that was a good idea. I did see that on the internet as I did look over the tank before I purchased it. Some people were drilling about 20 holes in the back there to slow down the flow, but I will get to that in the pros and cons. But that isn't the reason why I drilled the hole in the rear of the pipe there. It was just to get a bit of flow in that possible stagnated water. Okay, so yeah, so here's the pros and cons. So maybe we will start with the cons, get the bad stuff out of the way. Now the first con is also a pro, and we'll get to the pro side of it later on. But the quality on the lid, as you would have seen, I believe it was in episode 1 when I unboxed it, had quite a sharp edge on it. Now it's quite an easy fix. I just filed it down. It was no issue for me, but yeah, just maybe when you first get the tank, just give it a once over, a look over, and make sure if your young children are helping you, they might just accidentally cut themselves there. And look, it's not the biggest quality issue. That's what happens with plastic molding. So I've got no issue with that. But yeah, it was quite a sharp edge. Now the next con is the pump, which also is a pro. The pump is quite powerful. Now, as I was keeping a fighting fish in this tank, obviously they don't like a lot of flow. Now, as you can see by some of the gunk that's just flown out there, I've managed to get the flow very light. In fact, most of the flow, the stronger part of the flow is at the surface, but it's nothing like what you would have seen in my previous videos. That's because I do have a solution. Now, this is the little solution that I have. It's one of the inlet sponge filter covers that I've found for use on obviously inlet pipes on filters to stop fry and I guess larger pieces of gunk going into your filter. It's just a small sponge and it just slots straight over the inlet pipe nozzle. And that cuts down the flow massively. Now I am working on, I don't know if you'll be able to see there, but at the end there's like a little bit of a hole. I'm sort of slowly making a little bit of a larger hole at the front, just to let just the right amount of flow out. When I do a water change, for example, I just pull that foam off and I get full power, so to speak. Yeah, so it does have a strong flow, even on the lowest setting. Some people's solution is to drill, as I said before, about 20 holes in the inlet pipe and let the flow sort of come out to the back. I didn't want to quite do anything that drastic if possible. So yeah, I have got those little filter covers. And I'll show you how they originally come, and sort of give you a bit of an idea of the kind of modification it needs. Okay, so here is the part in question in its, I guess you call raw form. It's just a little inlet cover for your, for your inlet pipe of your filter, just to stop fry and I guess perhaps other particles from being sucked in. Just slides over the outlet nozzle and really does help diffuse the flow. When the water level drops, you see the flow is still coming out, but yeah, it is quite diffused, so it does help with that flow problem. I found my ones that I've purchased here on eBay. They were really cheap, and I got I think it was a 6-pack for not very much at all. You can get an actual FLUVAL one, but it was very hard to find here in Australia. Everyone was sort of saying that they had them on back order. They're probably a lot better quality than this, but yeah, I'm just having a play with this for the moment and can easily get a FLUVAL one later on. And yeah, like I said, I cut it down to about half the size, and then yeah, I've been mucking around with just taking a little bit off the end here to get a bit more flow through. But yeah, that's my simple and cheap solution for fixing the flow problem. Okay, so the next con is, look, it's not really that big a deal, as I do like to buy my own components where possible. But the tank came with everything. It came with a pump, a filter, a light, a lid. One thing it didn't come with was a heater. Now I understand, you know, not all people are going to require a heater for the fish they're going to keep, but I think that would have been a nice touch. Instead of having to go out and buy one. I mean, FLUVAL does make heaters. I was a little bit surprised it didn't actually come with one. But yeah, look, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is something that you're going to have to consider in the price. There's plenty of room in the back though for a heater, so you don't have to stress that much about the size. I did purchase a nano heater, which you would have seen in one of the previous videos. It's worked quite well. It's kept the tank to about 25, 26 degrees, and everyone's been happy in there, except the shrimp, of course. Yes, now for the last con, I'm going to have to say that while it's a great tank and really good size, I do wish I had have upgraded to the next size. Now, I can't actually remember what the next size is. I think it's possibly 15 or 20 litres. I think that size tank would be ideal. It's exactly the same kind of setup, just holds a little bit more water. And I think that would be the perfect size tank for starting out or for kids. Then you're not just limited to sort of a bit smaller size. With a bit larger tank, you could definitely get away with some more catfish or a bit more of a cleaning crew. And you could definitely get away with a little bit larger size fish as well. But for what I'm doing here with the fighter, it's pretty much perfect. Okay, so now we're going to go on to the pros. Now, as I said, some of these pros were in the cons list. Now, the first pro is quality. Now, as I said on the cons, it did have a bit of a sharp edge on the lid. But that was the only failure. Everything else, I really loved the quality of it. The light, the look of it, all the edging, all the silicone, the black silicone. Yeah, everything like that in it's been really great, and I have no complaints whatsoever. I think it's really good quality. Now the other pro is the pump. Now, yes, that was a con, but you know, pump circulation and the turnover of the tank's water is a really good thing, and for this tank to come with a little pump like that, I think was a really good bonus. Is it strong? Yes. Is it too strong? Maybe, but I don't think you could get a smaller size pump, perhaps, without paying a lot of money. So yeah, I think the pump is actually really good, and I mean, flow's always good. It's just unfortunate that in this case we're keeping a fighter, and they don't like flow so much. Now, when I do have the sponge off the outlet, look, he's still quite happy. There's a lot of dead spots in the tank that he can sort of sit down in all the cover underneath the log. He usually sleeps down underneath that main wood anyway. So he doesn't hate it. I think if I had a long fin fighter, he'd probably be in a little bit more trouble. But the short fin or placat one, he's a bit feisty, and yeah, he hasn't had any problem at all with the flow. But he does prefer it like this, with the minimal flow, with the cover on the outlet. The next pro is the light. The light is just, as you can see, by the amount of lights shining out the tank, it actually lights up the entire room. The light is very powerful, and like I said, the plants are growing at a decent rate. I'm not using any fertilizers or anything, it's just the fish themselves. Although I am umming and ahhing about perhaps adding in a little bit of plant fertilizer, liquid fertilizer. But everything seems to be going really well, and the light just shows off the fish colors brilliantly. I would love to see it with some other fish in here. I mean, not that the fighter doesn't look great, and you can get so many different fighter colors, it's really going to show them off. But it would be cool to see some like neons in there, or yeah, I'm not too sure, cherry barbs, something like that. I think that'd look really cool, and even some corries. Another pro is definitely the space at the rear of the tank. Now, it does come with an ample size filter, which is also a pro. The filter actually covers pretty much sort of half the rear section, and goes almost from the top to the bottom. It's a massive filter, and yeah, it really does hold a lot of bacteria, a good bacteria, that is. And it also, of course, comes with the two spaces for the ceramic sort of style noodles that it comes with, which I've been looking at, and they look like they've been going really good. And I also replaced the carbon that it came with the filter wool, and the filter wool has sucked up a lot of the sort of tannins from the wood, and I've been really happy that I've done that. But yeah, the rear space is great. You've got room in there for the little pump, and there's plenty of room back there for the heater. As I said, or if you had noticed in one of my last videos, I bought a nano heater that fits in there with plenty of space. It's great. I can actually change half the water of the tank and still have the heater on, and it's still fully covered, which is great. It's good to see the bristlenose cleaning off the Anubis there. And they look really good together, actually. As you can see there, the fighter really basically ignores him now, which is really good. It wasn't quite like that with the shrimp. Yeah, so the rear space is a real bonus. I have seen on the internet some people take the whole plastic cover off the rear section there, so they have the full size of the tank to use, but of course then your heater is exposed, your pump. I think people were then replacing the filter and the pump that it came with just a sort of a small bubble air filter, or sponge filter, sorry. Which would actually be pretty good, as it would obviously have bubbles coming out, pumping a bit of oxygen into the surface, getting the surface to turn over. That's definitely something you could do, but for now I'm going to leave it running as is. And yeah, chose to run it without any gravel, and been pretty happy with that. That may change in the future, as well as the decor. Okay, so the second last pro is the design. I really love the design of the tank. It's really classy looking. I love that the rear section has these sort of black honeycomb sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, coverage on the back. So you don't really see in at the filter and the components. I can still see through enough to see the light on my heater come on when that's actually powering on. But yeah, I really love that part of it. I think the light suits it perfectly. It just sort of comes down nice and low and looks very stylish. The lid's great. The base is nice, the black base. It does also come in white, which you'll be able to find. But yeah, I really do love the black styling of it, and it's just, yeah, it's a beautiful looking little tank. I think if this was your first tank, you'd be very happy. Okay, and the last pro is the price. I think the price for what you get was really good. I mean, I bought it on sale. I think I bought it for about $20 to $30 less than it normally is at retail. Sorry, just watching the fish there. Which was a bargain. I think if you can get this on sale, I think I paid around the 120 to 130 mark. Which I think is pretty good, considering it comes with pretty much everything you need. Of course, the majority of the fish you're probably going to want to keep, you're going to need a heater. But look, a small nano heater or something isn't really going to set you back a lot. Yeah, so that's pretty much all the pros and cons, and that's about it for this series. I hope you've enjoyed the videos I've made, and the step-by-step sort of videos of me unboxing it, putting it together and buying the components and putting the fish in. I've really loved doing this series, and I think one of the best things about aquarium hobby, definitely for me, is always setting up a new tank and putting the fish in, and seeing your vision and your idea of the decor come together, and then seeing it sort of become this little system of life, which is so good. And the fighter is definitely now got a lot larger home than what he had before. He seems a lot happier going through all the plants and the moss and going through the timber. And it's so cool to have a bristlenose again. In my other tanks, I can't actually have bristlenose because of the occupants that I have in there. So it's great to have a bristlenose once more. In fact, I may even swap it out one time and get an albino one or a peppermint one, which I really love. But we'll see what happens there. And yeah, so I hope you've got something out of this series. Maybe you just skipped straight to this video and you wanted to see the pros and cons and wanted to see if the video was for you. And I hope that's been helpful. I do have a lot of other videos on my channel, videos of my other fish, gaming and hobbies, as well as some of my travels. And I hope you can check some of those out and enjoy them. And if you like what I'm doing, then yeah, please feel free to subscribe, and I hope I can bring you some more really cool content in the future. But I've really loved doing this series, and it's been great having you along for the ride. So we're coming up to Christmas now, so I just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone, and thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in a video soon. Bye for now.